Yo, what's going on? I appreciate everybody for tuning in to the video and this live stream tonight. We're going to cover one main topic, but we do got to backtrack a little bit and talk a little bit more. This is the video about 19-year-olds whipping guys, destroying guys. What's going on, Maddie? I appreciate you for dropping the first comment and supporting the channel as always. So, hey, first comment of the day, you definitely get a well-deserved round of applause. Okay. No, I'm not playing fetch. Go. Dude, go. Take it. Don't bring it back. Stay. This is ridiculous. I just got on here. All right. This video is going to be about 19-year-olds who are giving headaches to guys who they are believed or purportedly in some type of relationship with. Now, we do got to backtrack a little bit because there's some new developments in the Shannon Sharpe case, and I have no clue why his attorney did this. It was something we found out about last night, but we definitely do have to dive in and talk about it. Always, hey, my name is Marcus. I'm a licensed attorney where we do attorney reactions here. If you get some value out of the content, I invite you to subscribe, share, comment, like, watch. All of that good stuff is an easy and free way to support the channel. Now, yesterday we went through a civil lawsuit filed against Shannon Sharpe for $50 million for SA allegation. Now, interestingly enough, during the live stream, someone had informed me that according to TMZ, there was an attempted settlement of $10 million. And so, of course, when I heard that, I was like, you know what? This is interesting. I need to take a look into this information. Generally, there's rules that doesn't allow for the disclosure of settlement discussions between parties while settlements are ongoing because it could completely destroy the settlement. So generally, you don't see people talking about opposing sides, talking about what the settlement discussions are prior to a settlement being made. Oftentimes, when a settlement is made, it's a provision within that settlement agreement saying, hey, you won't disclose the terms of this settlement agreement. The thing that was odd was apparently Bubsby and his client approached Shannon Sharpe. They were asking, according to Shannon Sharpe's lawyer, which is wild. I don't even know why he would put this out there. They were asking, in his words, for tens of millions of dollars. He said that Shannon Sharpe made an offer for tens of millions of dollars, and then they thought they were still in settlement negotiations when Bubsby and his client actually filed a lawsuit. I have no clue why you would disclose that your client was in discussions to settle for a civil lawsuit. Why wouldn't you want to disclose it? For me, I just think from a commonsensical standpoint, it's kind of crazy to do. If someone has a allegation against them and they settle the case, I don't think anything. I don't think that the settlement, I don't think if you agree to pay somebody money, I don't think that that says you're guilty. I don't think that that says you're innocent. I think of it as, well, you just thought it was made more financial sense to just go ahead, get this taken care of, have a non-disclosure agreement, and just move on with your life. I don't take it any type of way. Most people, I don't think, conform to my belief. A lot of times, not all, but a fair number of people often associate the payment of a settlement with guilt, even though I know that it has nothing to do that. It's just a business and a headache decision. If you have the money to do it, you just go ahead and do it. So the fact that Shannon Sharpe attorney actually disclosed that they were in settlement discussions is kind of wild, because I think it does more harm than good. Those group of people who say, hey, well, you were willing to pay $10 million, so you were willing to pay $10 million for something, you must have did something. I think that's just a bad look. I think it cast a wide net over a potential jury pool that could be problematic if they were to go to trial. So yesterday we went through the complaint. We talked about Shannon Sharpe and the text messages that he released. Well, Hey, Attorney Busby, the plaintiff's attorney, and the plaintiff bounced back and released an audio recording of a conversation between Shannon Sharp and his client. In the conversation, Shannon Sharp can be heard saying something to the effect of, "Hey, if you say that again, I'm going to choke the you know what out of you." And definitely not the greatest audio to be released for Shannon Sharp, but it's not as problematic as some people probably will think. First of all, right now, what these attorneys are doing is just persuading the court of public opinion. They want some people to say Shannon Sharp is a low life. They want some people to say that this young lady is out to try to grab a bag and this is a money grab. They're trying to persuade the potential jury pool by releasing this information. Now, why is not as damaging is because, one, even though that audio may damage a jury pool, there's actually no guarantee that that audio is going to be admitted during a trial. We're going to talk about this a little bit. It's called authentication. In order to introduce evidence during a trial, you have to be able to authenticate the evidence. That means that you have to be able to prove that this evidence that you're trying to get in, this audio recording, this signed document, or this contract, you have to be able to prove that this is what you say it is. So you have to be able to prove that it wasn't tampered with. You have to be able to prove that this is authentic. So, with that being said, I think they would have problems probably getting just this snippet admitted into evidence because I don't know if they can authenticate this small portion of it. What I'm guessing is that there was a much larger conversation that was had. This snippet that was taken out was probably what Attorney Bubsby believed purportedly was the worst part of the actual phone conversation. If it's just a snippet, it's going to be difficult to let in. Shannon Sharp actually did another video where he talked about in the next coming days, there's going to be a 30-second clip released of a sexual interaction that's going to hold me, attempt to hold me in the worst light that a black man can be held under, which is wow. I don't even know what that means. It's only 30 seconds. So I'm like, man, bro, what was you doing if this footage is going to hold you in the worst light that a black man can ever be held in? But with this video, if it's released, it's going to have those same issues. You just can't introduce evidence during a trial because you have it. Hey, I recorded this phone conversation of me and the defendant. Here it goes. No, we have to authenticate that, one, this is in fact the defendant. Is this the full length of the audio? Was it manipulated or edited? If you can't prove those things, that evidence will be inadmissible at trial. So I don't think, even though the audio footage sounded bad, I don't think it's as bad as I've seen some content creators and media outlets made it to be. We don't really have the context. A 10-second audio clip, I know the conversation was clearly longer than 10 minutes. The thing that is confusing to me is the complaint said that Shannon Sharp recorded her and recorded her secretly. So how is it that Shannon Sharp is aware of a recording that could potentially be released to show him in a bad light? I'm like, bro, what? Like, you have all the resources and the access. You should be the person who should be able to control what is recorded. It's the interactions are always happening at your house. Like, I don't know. Did you all make the recording and you shared it with her or something to that effect? I don't know. It's getting kind of crazy, but I don't think that audio footage is as damning as a lot of people are making it out to be. Personally, as I read the complaint along with the text messages, I see a lot of holes and inconsistencies in that story. I already told you how I feel about Attorney Bubsby. He gives me cause to pause, even though he was right on the Deshaun Watson, he was right on the R. Kelly thing. I have some cause to pause after that whole Jay-Z debacle with a Jane Doe situation. So we're going to see how this plays out. But I just wanted to touch bases real quick on those new points in that Shannon Sharp case that we dove into yesterday. And the big takeaway from this video is beware of 19-year-old fellas, because this is crazy. Yeah, clear. Yeah, I agree with you 100%, MDJ. I think that you can tell from when I heard the audio conversation, and I was going to play it, but I was like, nah, I don't want to play it. But when I heard the audio conversation, she said something to the effect of, "Don't manipulate me." Sharp, allegedly, if that is Sharp, replies, "If you say that again, I'm gonna choke the hell out of you," or something like that. And then her response was like, "I don't want to be choked." But it was like really like it wasn't consistent with how you think a conversation like that would go. Like, I don't know. I'm gonna just be honest. Like the way she responded to that conversation, to me, if I were on the phone, I would be like, that was an odd response. Is this being recorded? I think that would be an odd response personally. Yeah, she was 19 at the time that they met. And again, I think there are a lot of holes in the complaint. I think that the text conversations open and poke further holes into the complaint. I don't think that the audio that we heard, one, we didn't hear the entire audio. We don't know the context. We don't even know if that's him. It's not authenticated. This is how I'm looking at it. And even if that audio clip was authenticated, just with that short snippet, to me, it's not as damning as people are making out to be. I don't think it's as damning as Attorney Bubsby thought it was when he released it. I actually think it's more damaging to her case that Sharp released text messages where his where the plaintiff is clearly saying that she wants all this bondage and all of this type of abuse, and the collar with the fur on the side and the fluffy handcuffs and all of that stuff. I actually think that's more damaging to the plaintiff's case than this audio recording is to support her case, in my personal opinion. But yeah, she was 19. The big takeaway is, bro, you was 52, 4 years old at the time. Uh, this had nowhere to go but downhill. You have everything to gain. You have everything to lose, nothing to gain from dealing with a 19-year-old who is an OnlyFans model who works in the gym and charges less than $13 for her OnlyFans membership. And I saw a photo of the Jane Doe in this case, and I don't know. I just thought it was ridiculous. But anyway, I just wanted to circle back, touch on those few things with Shannon Sharp. I might chop this up and put this out as a separate video. But now we're going to delve into another 19-year-old female who, hey, 19-year-old females is giving cats problems. This is actually a terrible story of a young man who's a single father in Indianapolis who, according to reports, met a young lady online, was going out on a date, appears to have been set up by this young lady and her boyfriend. Now, how do we define a date? We're going to talk about that. I got some notes. Let's go ahead, take a look at this short news story. Then I'm going to go through my notes, open up the discussion, because I actually read the affidavit and they were interesting. I didn't want to bring the affidavit up because the way it was written was too complicated, but I got the notes. We're going to cover it. Let's go ahead and dive in. Rest in peace to Jarrell Pryor, single dad whose daughter is going to have to be without her father. Absolutely terrible story. Let's check it out. Then we're going to dive back in.
Now, two young suspects are charged with murder and robbery in a deadly shooting on Indy's north side.
It happened in January. CBS 4's Jesse Wells spoke to the victim's parents today.
According to court records, the murder, which took place right here on this street behind me, stemmed from a date that turned into a robbery. The victim's family hopes both the 19-year-old woman who's accused of arranging the crime and her 18-year-old boyfriend who allegedly committed the shooting are held accountable for that senseless killing. Jarrell Pryor stayed out of trouble and worked hard raising.
That's terrible. That's actually an adorable picture. And this whole story is terrible. Y'all know when we do these stories, I got to take the intermittent pauses. This news article doesn't cover a deep dive, but we're going to go through all the facts, talk about the potential arguments with they probably should do if they were smart and listening to their attorneys.
his daughter Honey until he was set up, ambushed, and shot to death near 49th and Primrose, just north of the state fairgrounds in late January.
I'm broken inside. I'm torn. I'm tore up.
He lost his life for going on a date.
In fact, just a few hours before Tamika and Travis Wiley's son was killed, police believe Pryor messaged this woman, Alexis Hawkins, asking a 3-word question, "When you free?" This affidavit claims that while Hawkins agreed to go on free,
All right,
asking Pryor messaged this woman, Alexis.
All right, 2 things. This is her at the time of her arrest. It was about 2.5 weeks after the incident occurred in January. Don't come in here with that, dog. This is her after her arrest. We're going to take a look at some pictures from her Instagram page just to see what was going on. But I want y'all to pay attention to this because I think this is pertinent, not as it relates to the facts that will probably throw her and her boyfriend in jail for possibly the rest of their life, but
Alexis Hawkins asking a 3-word question, "When you free?" This affidavit claims that while Hawkins agreed to go on a date with Pryor, she simultaneously began messaging her boyfriend, Brian Winston Jr., arranging to rob the unsuspecting victim.
It was a senseless act, and they didn't get nothing out of it. And they took everything from us. You can't escape this type of pain. You can't. There's no running from it. There's no getting away.
While talking to police, Hawkins allegedly admitted she was at the scene inside the victim's car at the time of the shooting, but denied taking part in the violence. For their part, police insist a series of messages between the 2 suspects ties them to the robbery and murder. Pryor's parents say they celebrated his daughter's 3rd birthday without him just a few weeks ago, and the arrest of the 2 accused killers does not ease the family's pain.
I mean, no justice will ever cure my broken heart. It's not going to ever bring my baby back.
It really doesn't matter if they spend the rest of their lives in jail. We lost, and we have to deal with this pain every day.
Finally, Hawkins made her initial court hearing last month. Winston has not yet gone to court. Both suspects are being held without bond pending trial. Jesse Wells.
all right, without bond, pending trial. Let me go ahead. I got to go ahead and get these. You know what? I don't even need to put my notes on the screen. I'll just go ahead and read them. Hold on real quick. I think I had a mild technical difficulty. All right, so the persons involved in this case, we have the victim, Jarrell Pryor. We have Alexis, who's 26. Jarrell Pryor's 26. We have Alexis Hawkins, who's 18. And then we have Alexis Hawkins' boyfriend, Brian Winston Jr. Now, they said that they met on some type of dating site or something like that. I'm not sure what site they were on, but I am going to pull up a few images that I was able to find on, let's see. I am going to pull up a few images because I know what y'all thinking. Let's just be real. Y'all looked, it was like, man, that arrest pictures, how he fall for that? But hey, you always got to have the bait to be able to lure somebody in to any type of scheme, setup, finesse, scam, anything like that. So let me go ahead and I'm going to just pull up a few images so we can see what Mr. Pryor probably saw when he actually reached out with that message, "When you free." And all of these pictures I was able to locate on social media. Give me 1 second. Because I'm uploading these pictures, it's a little funky. Let me see. I want to put this picture number 1. Let's see if we could get this on the screen. That's picture number 1. That's how the picture is on the site. So I just got to give y'all some context. I want y'all to see what Mr. Pryor saw, because when you see that mugshot, you're like, bro, what? How did this even happen? But we got to put some context to it. So that's photo number 1. Let's take a look at photo number 2. And, you got it was some reason that he decided to reach out. So, we got to get the full context so we can understand what's going on. Photo number 2 right here of Alexis Hawkins, 18-year-old, who either participated in or set this entire thing up unilaterally as the brains behind it. I'm not sure who was the brains behind the operation, but I'm gonna let y'all make that call. And we're gonna do one more just so y'all can get full context. We got that one on the thumbnail. We do one more just so we can get full context, because we got to know what Mr. Pryor saw, what convinced him to leave out of his home to go meet up. And this is another photo right here. So these are the photos of Alexis Hawkins, who is currently under arrest for felony murder, armed robbery, causing seriously bodily harm, and one other offense that we'll get to. Now, let me go and pull up my notes so we can dive into this. All right, so the victim, Jarrell Pryor, is 26. We have Alexis Hawkins, who is age 18. This occurred in January of 2025, and it all started per the article or the news story we saw with a 3-word text message, "When you free." Of course, Alexis agreed to go on the tape. While texting Jarrell, she was simultaneously texting her boyfriend, Brian Winston, at the same time on IG. Hawkins essentially worked out a date with Pryor, but was coordinating with Winston behind the scenes. The question is, was it a... Let me go through a few more notes before we get this. Let me see. Play 19-year-old games, you win 19-year-old prizes. $10 million is now costing them, and possible future endorsement just because this came out. Yeah, I think he's going to be done. His money will never be the same after this, in my personal opinion. All right. So Hawkins worked out a date with Pryor, and while they were coordinating this date, again, Hawkins was on the phone with her boyfriend, Brian Winston, setting up things on the back end. They met in person. They sat in his car for a while, and at one point, they made one stop at a liquor store. We don't know what was purchased. I couldn't identify that from the documents I read or from the news articles I saw. But they made one stop at like a convenience store. They met in person. They sat in his car. And before 1 a.m., Brian Winston, Alexis' boyfriend, ran up on Jarrell and shot him in the vehicle. Now, again, condolences to the family. Rest in peace to that guy. But we got to be fair and objective, okay? I got to be fair and objective. I don't know if this... I don't think that this was a date. I think that the media is coining it as a date in an effort to offer some deference to the victim and his family. And I'm not necessarily opposed to that. But I was a defense attorney for a long time. I've seen instances like this. I've seen clients, former clients who passed away from setups like this. They found them in the car, pants around their ankles. 1 a.m. that this occurred, they made one stop at a liquor store. There was nothing in the affidavit, nothing in any reporting showing that they went to Applebee's beforehand or anything to that effect. So generally, I can't speak for everybody, but in my experience as a defense attorney, when people leave out of the house those times of night, my experience as a man, if you leave out the house at 1 a.m., it's for very specific purposes. Now, we don't know if they left out at 1 a.m., but we know this shooting happened at 1 a.m., and they only made one stop at a liquor store. There was no other report of any other stops, no Applebee's, Ruby Tuesdays, Ruth Chris, or anything to that effect. So I would be interested to know where and what and how and what site did they start this communications on. Typically, I'll tell you the play that I've seen when I was a defense attorney. Young ladies or either their boyfriends, one or the other, or both in concert, would go on to apps. And I think the big one when I was doing defense work was Craigslist. Everything bad happened on Craigslist. They would go on Craigslist, meet some guy for some pay-to-play situation. When these guys show up, they rob these guys. And the reason, I had clients told me this, the reason we rob these guys is because these guys, who are they going to tell? They out doing some shit that they don't got no business doing. Not saying that that is what was going on with the victim here. I'm just saying that the time that this happened one stop, no information of anything appearing to be a date. That's normally how I've seen these type of setups actually occur. That's just my personal opinion. Now, on the scene, when police arrived to the scene after this young man was shot, police on the scene discovered messages in his phone between Jarrell and between Alexis Hawkins. Once they saw this communication, they obtained an arrest warrant to search Hawkins' Instagram account. They were able to identify with the search warrant that Hawkins, shortly after this murder occurred the next day, searched phrases like news today, news near me, news in her specific area, as if she was trying to see if there were any updates about the murder that actually occurred. What's going on, Lisa? I appreciate you tuning in. Thanks for joining in. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Logan, what's going on? I appreciate you tuning in as well. All right. So, again, she searched phrases trying to see what was going on in the news in the area where this murder happened. All right. In addition, law enforcement officers, once they got a search warrant, went through her phone. They also saw that she contacted several people asking for a ride from the location, the same place where Pryor was found deceased. All right. Nothing happened for 2 weeks. She was out free, chilling, walking around for 2 weeks. She was ultimately questioned 2 weeks later and made several sketchy statements. Okay, when they first asked her what went on, what was going on, she said that she can't remember, which people say all the time. And from a legal perspective, it's actually a really good response. I'd rather you say you can't remember than say some stupid shit. All right. But she said that there was no weapon, and she told police, I quote, "No weapon to say I did anything. My fingerprints aren't on anything." Police asked her if her prints would be found inside of Pryor's car, and her exact words was, "It's not going to be on no weapon, though." Police asked Hawkins about a message where she was stated that she was going to make a play. Now, it looks like that was a conversation she had separate on IG with her boyfriend about a play they were going to run. A play is never denoted in the hood as a good thing. It's normally a finesse, a scam, hitting the lick. It's normally something where somebody got to get fucked over, okay? But police asked Hawkins about a message where she stated she was going to make a play. At that point, Hawkins stopped talking and asked for an attorney. She was subsequently arrested and charged with murder and robbery and felony murder as well. Now, those are the general facts of the case. Now we're going to pivot and take a look at just some of the legal questions. First one that I put up here, and if y'all got any, y'all chime in and let me know. How's a case like this move through the justice system once it's charged? The very first thing that's going to happen, these people are going to have their first appearance. We heard from that news story that Alexis had her first appearance, but her boyfriend Brian did not have his first appearance. That's solely to determine a bond. They have no bond, which makes sense. Is also to determine the court date and to determine what they're going to do about an attorney. I'm assuming that these two individuals are broke and have no money, so they're probably going to get a court-appointed attorney, a public defender. Typically, as a defense attorney at this stage, you have a little bit of time. You have a little bit of time to sit down, confer with your client. Hopefully, they tell you the truth. You have a little bit of time to wait to get the discovery so you can see what evidence the state has against you. Here, time is of the essence. The reason why time is of the essence because you have two co-defendants. It's only a matter of time before either Alexis or her boyfriend decides, you know what? I'm going to blame all of this shit on you and say that you were the mastermind to see if I can work out a deal. So if I'm a defense attorney in this case, after the first appearance, if I was appointed as a public defender or they retained me to their case, immediately after a conversation with them, even before I get the discovery, because these facts are just fucking bad for them. These facts, I don't see any way they can really finesse or massage these facts in any way that would be favorable unless some crazy thing happened that we're unaware of. But immediately it should be who's the first person who's going to run to the prosecutor. Normally, the first person, when you have co-defendants, is going to get the best deal on the table. This is important because I think, if I'm not mistaken, I got it in my notes later on, but I believe that the charges that they're charged with, the felony murder, the murder, carries at a minimum of 45-year sentence. And I looked it up in Indianapolis. I think you have to do at least 77% of your sentence. So you're talking about 35 to 37 years. I don't know. I'm not a math major, but somewhere along those lines. So the other question is, well, what are the prosecutors doing at this time? The prosecutors are just leaning on their detectives, their investigators, to get any additional investigation. Now, the next question that we got to look at is text and DM messages. How does this play in the court? Generally, I mean, if a person is going to commit a crime, you probably should not have a phone, leave it at home, leave it anywhere where people think you should be while you're out doing your dirt. Because back in the day, with cell phones, they had to triangulate to be able to determine your general location, because all cell phones didn't have this advanced geo-tracking information like they do now. So back in the day, if I was on my phone in location A, they could look and see what towers my cell phone signals are beeping off. I'm at location A. My cell phone, within a certain time period, binged off of towers 1, 2, and 3. They can triangulate and say, okay, based on the time where his cell phone hit these towers, he's probably in this region. That was old school. New school, hey, geo-tracking information, they can find out exactly where you are immediately as things are going down. With the text messages and the DMs, we all know the reason those are so important is because they provide context. The geo tracking information, the geographic information where a person is, how far it can take them to get from point A to point B, all of that is important. But when you combine that with what's being said in the text messages, now you get enough information where you can actually paint a picture. According to the probable cause affidavit, before I get there, prosecutors also at this time, what they do is they contact custodians of records in an effort to preserve evidence. So now you may see things going out, communications, possibly subpoenas for documents, or communications going out to, I don't know, maybe Meta or WhatsApp or whatever platform they use, their cell phone service provider, because now they don't want this stuff to be destroyed. They want it to be preserved. According to the probable cause affidavit, Brian Winston tried to break his phone, according to this affidavit, but it's unknown if he was successful in doing so. Now, like I said, there's murder and there's felony murder here, both on the table. We talked about this before. Murder, we know what a murder is, an unlawful killing of another human being. Now, if it's first degree, it's premeditated, deliberative, but murder, unlawful killing of another human being. Felony murder is during the commission of an underlying felony, someone dies. No one cares how that person died. The scenario I always use is, you're the getaway driver. I go in to rob a bank, and on the way out, I say, "Get out my way, old man," and I flinch at him, and he have a heart attack and die. I'm going to catch a felony murder charge. The driver going to catch a felony murder charge. Everybody's involved is going to catch a felony murder charge, even though, like, literally, the felony happens. The security guard, when he's getting up as you walk away, he slips and falls, splits his melon open, and passes away. Everybody's getting charged with the felony murder. So it doesn't matter how the person died. It's just during the commission of an underlying felony, someone passes away. They could be 102 years old and die of natural causes. You will be asked out. So those are just the legal differences between the murders and felony murders. Alexis is charged with felony murders because the prosecution story is that she planned this with her boyfriend. She took Jarrell on a date. She was setting him up to hit a lick, according to her, which is what she said in a text message. She didn't do the shooting, but she was active as a participant in the robbery, and a death occurred during the commission of that robbery. Now, the question is, can it be a conspiracy to commit murder charge? Is that something that's actually on the table? I'm going to give you the lawyer answer. Yes, it's possible, but I don't think that it's probable. Here, I think felony murder was the right charge. I think it's patently obvious. These people set this guy up to commit an armed robbery. He died during the commission of this robbery. Felony murder is real easy. I saw some comments to articles I was reading. People was like, well, they could be charged with conspiracy to commit murder. I mean, they could be charged with anything, but I don't think conspiracy to commit murder would be the proper charge, because in order to prove a conspiracy charge, you would actually have to prove that there was a plan to commit the actual murder. From what I saw in the affidavit, we know that there was a plan for the robbery. We know that there was a plan for the setup, the finesse, but we don't know if there was an actual plan to commit the actual murder. So I don't think a conspiracy to commit murder charge was there. For all we know, there could have been, just hypothetically, just a hypothetical here, there could have been a plan in place to set this guy up. He thought he was going to come out, maybe clap something. He got a little money in his pocket. This is just a hypothetical, because it was 1 a.m. They didn't have any receipts, anything from going on the actual date. They just stopped at a convenience store. So hypothetically, let's say he goes out. It's a pre-planned cheek clapping session. The boyfriend is running late on the setup side of the game. So her being in the car, not to get caught, she has to go farther with the cheek clapping session than she actually intended. Boyfriend comes to commit this robbery that they planned. He sees that this dude potentially, just again, hypothetically, got his pants around his ankles. Now he's upset. Bow, bow, bow. Not a conspiracy to commit murder in that situation. Hypothetically, if something like that were to happen. Now, the next question is, could it actually be a manslaughter? I don't see how it could be downgraded to a voluntary manslaughter. It would be a big difference because there's no mandatory minimum. Well, I think the minimum is 10 years on voluntary manslaughter. I'm not sure, but it's substantially less than 45 years, I know for a fact. So these people would actually be able to get out and have some semblance of a life. But I just don't think that there's enough evidence to be able to get anything down to voluntarily, because normally you see voluntary manslaughter when it's like heat of passion or some type of adequate provocation. I don't see any facts in the affidavit that would support that. Maybe we might get some information that came up later. Now, we do have to remember, even though these facts are terrible, we always have to start off with a presumption of evidence. But if it were me, the very first thing I talked about that needs to be done, they need to implore their client to actually tell them the truth. And whoever I'm representing, whether it's the boyfriend, whether it's Alexis, someone needs to be the first person to get down to the prosecutor's office, because that's going to be the first person to get this, what could be the lesser deal. I think Alexis is in a much better position if she moves first to get a much better deal. According to the affidavit for probable cause, Alexis said she was there when the shooting happened. She stated that she was scared. She stated that she ran away. She could do what I think most people would do. I think this happens all the time. I'll be honest. In every case that I've worked, I'm trying to think, was it every? I'm not going to say every, but in a majority of the cases where I worked, whether it was a defense attorney, prosecutor, investigative attorney, whatever it was, whenever there was a couple, a man and a woman, real talk, 80% of the time, the woman was the brain of the operations. I'm not saying that this is the case, but in my personal experience, anytime I had a case, husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, it's rarely, very rarely was the guy the brains of the operation. The woman was normally the chief finesse officer, the CFO, who came up with the plan, the strategy. The guys were typically just used as an enforcement tool in most cases. Like I said, 80% of the time. I had a few one-offs, but that wasn't the norm. But I think she's in a much better position to get a better sweetheart deal because she said she was scared, because she's a woman, because her boyfriend may have some propensity for violence. We don't know what's in his past at this point, but there may be some propensity for violence there. It would actually be smart of her to say, hey, I was scared of this dude. He set things like this up all the time. And, even though we didn't talk about it, like I didn't want to get my ass whipped by this guy. So I said, okay, we just going to run this play. And that's what was going on. I think she's in a prime position to say that. Honestly, if I'm a prosecutor, I wouldn't give a damn because I think I got both of them dead to rights. So I wouldn't offer anybody a sweetheart deal. That's just me personally. But she's in a much better position. Let me see. Yeah, this was actually a terrible thing. Now, the probable cause affidavit did have something interested in it. This is why now we don't have facts to know who was the brains of the operation, but I have my suspicion of who I think it is. But I want you all to listen to what Alexis' mother had to say about her. It wasn't anything shining. Okay. Essentially, in the probable cause affidavit, they had testimony from Alexis' mother that said she was a wild girl. And when I say wild, I mean wild. To the point where her mother had to put her out of the home because Alexis was hanging out and doing a lot of street and goon stuff with street individuals. Now, I know you think like, we all know people from the hood. If you're from the hood, you know people from the hood. No, her mother specifically said that she was hanging out with street guys and pimps. Pimps is crazy. So, again, her hitting the lick, using that type of language, running the play, is giving consistent behavior with what the mother is saying. I had to put her out because I couldn't control her. She was too wild. She was in the street doing street shit, hanging out with pimps and all sorts of goons and everything. Again, the murder occurred at 1:30 a.m. in the morning, and at 5:30 a.m., Alexis and her boyfriend Brian were having another text conversation. Now, this was interesting because this conversation that occurred 4 hours after the murder occurred did not make a mention of anything that happened, but it did give off a couple who maybe have gotten into a fight and were making up. There were text messages. I'm almost done, dude. Get out of here. There were text messages saying, I love you, I'm sorry, but nothing that, again, mentioned the murder. In the PC affidavit, it also showed that she sent a text message we talked about hitting the lick. But it does not mean just because she said that she had external pressure from her boyfriend, Brian. But I'm pretty sure that's what she's going to say. Both charged with murder, felony murder, robbery with serious bodily evidence. The most important evidence here is going to be the communication evidence. I don't even think the geo-tracking information is probably important because they waited so long to arrest her. They probably won't have anything because if you're sitting in a car with someone who gets shot, it's going to be blood splatter everywhere. You try to, dude, get out of here with your squeaky ball. I'll be done in a minute. Bye. Jesus Christ, this dog driving me crazy. But there'll be blood splatter everywhere. The fact that they waited like 2.5 weeks to actually arrest her, I don't know. The likelihood of them actually having this information is probably really slim. Dude, get out. It's probably really slim. They might get lucky, find something on a shoe, possibly, but I seriously doubt it. Again, there was only one video in a liquor store that potentially haven't confirmed this yet, but it potentially shows Alexis in Jarrell's car, no view of the boyfriend at that time. Again, the sentence they're looking at is 45 to 60 years, with 45 being the mandatory minimum. Now, could they get life without parole? Is that a possibility? It is a possibility, but that would have to be expressly pursued by the prosecutor. And right now, we don't see anything or any inference that the prosecutor is actually going to do that. Now, I did see something about a civil case. Can they actually file a civil lawsuit? Yes, you can file a civil lawsuit for wrongful death against both Alexis and Brian. But let's be honest, people who doing bum ass robberies like this are broke as fuck. They ain't got no money. It would actually be pointless for Jarrell's family to even waste the resources to file this lawsuit because her mother had to put her out. She hanging out with pimps and shit. Like, there's no money there to be had, in my personal opinion. Oh wow, her mom is probably your mother. When your mother say shit about you, like, you need to, like, I'm generally going to believe it. Like, yo, I had to put you out because you was doing some crazy stuff. Like, people generally don't want to put out their kids, especially their daughters. Because I mean, like, a son, you like, man, get out here. But a daughter, you probably a little bit more reluctant to put your daughter out, in my personal opinion. So the fact that mom said she had to put her out because she was engaged in street activity, doing all this hood booger stuff, hanging out with pimps. I'm gonna just be honest. I don't know I only know one reason why a young pretty girl would hang out with pimps, and it's not so she can learn how to be a pimpstress. It's just not. I'm just saying. I'm not saying, hey, no shade to Alexis at this point, but if you're a young pretty girl hanging out with a pimp, it's probably for a reason, and they aren't trying to give you game so you can learn how to start your own pimp business. I just don't think that's how the school of pimpology generally works. So it's going to be interesting to see where this case goes and where this develops. I'm gonna just be honest. I don't know if you all are familiar with this song. I'm a hip hop head. When my son was young and we were in the car, and I always liked this song. I think I talked about this before, but I try to give my son salient advice because I don't want him to end up in situations that could be avoided. And so it's a song with Lil Wayne and Kendrick Lamar, Mona Lisa. I don't know. Y'all let me know in the chat and in the comments if y'all familiar with that song. It's one of my favorite hip hop songs of all time. And it's about two guys telling a story. Lil Wayne is telling a story about how he has these fine female friends who go to the club and set up these goofies for them to come rob. I don't know if y'all familiar with that song, but it's a great song and it's indicative. Yeah, mom didn't want to become the next victim. Most likely age does not. Yeah, does come with some wisdom. I agree. I agree with that 100%. Like, yeah, I don't know. I'm just like, this clearly isn't the first time they ran this setup. But I don't know. Y'all familiar with that song, Mona Lisa? I see in this bitch stunting, popping bottles, getting drunk with these women. When they leave, they get followed. Go to sleep in his bed. He don't know much about her, but she doesn't sin. We take all of her shit. We take all of his shit, and when he wake up, he try to find her. The whole song is a beautiful song, but I played that song for my son when he was young, and I was like, yo, it's really like that. Like, you have to have your head on the swivel. If you're going out on a date, you have to be strategic about where you're going, the location. Probably drive past the location a little bit earlier just to be able to see the landscape, because it's a cold game out here. And unfortunately in that society, the fastest way for people to come up financially, they think, is to screw somebody else over. Whether you commit some type of financial fraud or whether you rob them or do some illegal goofy shit, like, that's just kind of the culture that we live in, unfortunately. So you got to be really careful. Generally, I don't know if y'all heard the saying, but ain't nothing open past midnight but 7-Eleven and Legs. But if Legs is open, now, if it's somebody you know, I'm not saying y'all can't make y'all, booty calls, okay? Like, we get it, But a first time new booty call at 1 a.m., that's kind of crazy. Like, in 2025, you can't be doing that. You can't be doing that because you are looking to set yourself up for failure. A lot of guys are out here, like, I don't know. I just can't. This is a real true bill. I tell my son, when you meet a woman for the first time, be in an environment that you can control. I don't care if it's a mall or movie theaters. Hell, if anything, I would rather it be your house, even though I'm never been a big fan of inviting somebody to my house for the first time. That's crazy. I don't need to let nobody know where I lay my head at. But I would much rather that. If the options are in a dark parking lot at 1 a.m. in your car or at your crib, both options are terrible options. But I'd rather you like, okay, meet her at your crib. At least you in your house, you're in your crib. There's some level of comfort there. Cough, Cardi who? Yeah, so yeah, hey, Cardi B said it all the time. I did a story. I don't know if y'all remember the story I did. I did a story some time back. I actually put it to the pinned comments of this video. But I did a story a while back. It might have been in Arizona or Nevada, but guys were going to the strip clubs and their credit cards were getting charged. I'm talking about enough money for down payment for houses, $80,000, $50,000, $100,000. And they didn't know what the hell was going on. Apparently, when these guys would go back to the boom boom room, they all testified to the same thing. When we went back to the boom boom room, it was like really cloudy and I got dizzy and passed out. Well, apparently this strip club would pump some type of chemical through the vents at this strip club in the boom boom room. So the girls will take the guys back there. They probably leave out for a while. When they come back, guys were passed out. They take these dudes' wallet. Then after they take these dudes' wallet, they just run it up. And American Express and everybody was like, hey, we can't help you. You should have known better, which is crazy. Like, I don't know. I'm not a big strip club guy. But if I go to a strip club, ID card, cash. I don't have nothing else. ID card to get in and cash is the only thing that you should have. Yeah. Wasn't they buying art or something too? I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the. I don't know. I can't remember. I'm not sure. But the name of the game here, from these two stories that we talked about yesterday and in this video is, hey, everything that looks good is not good for you. Okay, everything that looks good is not good for you. A little bit different story because Shannon Sharp, you old enough to actually know better, bro. Like you old enough to know the risk that you signed yourself up for when you mess with an OnlyFans model who work at Planet Fitness or wherever she worked. That was kind of crazy work on your part. This other guy, he was 26. I don't know. I would like to know the full context of the meetup because they say date, but a 1 a.m. meetup in their car, just going to a convenience store. I don't know. If I go to a convenience store, then we sitting in the car, I might have went to the convenience store to buy some Magnums or something. I don't know. I'm just saying that's what it's kind of giving. So I would like to know the context of the actual meetup. But generally, everything that's not good is not good for you. If you have this is what I normally do. If I want to ride my motorcycle, some mornings I wake up and I be like, man, I want to go ride my motorcycle. If there's something that tells me immediately don't ride it or I don't feel like putting on all this shit, I just don't do it. If you actually listen to the thoughts in your head, your big head, not your little head, most times when you're about to put yourself in harm's way, you're going to feel some type of way about it. Fellas, ladies, we got to listen to that. I hear stories of women all the time. A friend told me a story about a girlfriend of hers who was sexually assaulted. And again, sexual assault is terrible. All these crimes are terrible, but there were opportunities to put yourself in a position to eventually avoid it. But a bad decision was made, and then you have to suffer these terrible consequences as a result of your actions. So, I just want everybody to be safe. That's the reason we cover these stories, to inform people, give them a little bit of legal game. But more importantly, people need to know how to keep their head on a swivel. I'm going to do a live stream tomorrow night because Friday I may or may not be able to do one. I don't know yet. But tomorrow we're going to do a rundown. We got New York Attorney General Letitia James and her mortgage fraud that we're going to take a look at. We're going to look at something, of course, with the soon-to-be former super mayor, Tiffany Henyard. I think she got a few days, a week or so left, a couple weeks left, maybe to that effect. But we got a few stories new scam that's not really a scam, is a dumb scam, but we got some things we're going to talk about tomorrow. So I definitely invite all y'all to tune in as well. Hey, I'm appreciative and grateful for everybody who tuned in. Thank you all in the chat. Thank you all for watching this on replay. Y'all take care. Have a blessed one. Be safe. Peace.